Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. For decades, we've basically been told that sleep is just rest, right? Like a simple biological pause button we press at the end of a long, exhausting day. But what if that entire paradigm is just totally wrong? Today, we are going to completely reframe how you understand your own body. We're going to look at sleep not as some passive state of rest, but as a critical, highly active, and deeply interconnected biological reprogramming session, a session that literally dictates your cognitive longevity and your long-term health. So what invisible biological forces are actually shaping the quality of your life every single day? That's the central mystery we're going to unravel right now. Because every single night, right beneath your conscious human experience, there's this hidden biological operating system running. It's repairing cellular damage, it's clearing out neurotoxins, and it's literally rewiring your neural networks. But here's the thing, for millions of people, this operating system is constantly crashing. And honestly, the most terrifying part, they have absolutely no idea why.
We really need to peel back the layers of this biological onion. We've got to move way past this era of simple sleep hacks and isolated quick fixes. Look, your health isn't a checklist, it's an ecosystem. It is the emergent result of countless interconnected biological processes occurring every moment of every single day. If you actually want to change how you age, how you think, and how you feel, well, you have to understand the profound interconnectedness of your body's chemistry.
Now, to understand why so many of us are failing at sleep, we first have to look at the tools we're actively trying to use. 88%. That is a genuinely staggering number. A recent CBS News report highlighted a study analyzing standard over-the-counter melatonin gummies, and they found that 88% of them, that's 22 out of 25 products they tested, were completely inaccurately labeled. The actual amount of melatonin in those bottles ranged from 74% to a massive 347% of what was claimed on the label. It entirely validates any skepticism you might have about modern health marketing. I mean, when you take a sleep supplement and wake up feeling horribly groggy, it might not be your biology failing you. You might have just accidentally ingested over 3 times the required hormone dose.
That brings us to Section 1, hacking the circadian pacemaker, our body's master clock, because you simply cannot optimize what you don't understand. Deep within your hypothalamus sits the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That is your circadian pacemaker. And it's this exquisite evolutionary mechanism that, frankly, does not respond well to brute force. It relies on incredibly precise environmental and chemical signals to choreograph your sleep-wake cycle.
And this brings us to a massive misunderstanding about melatonin itself. Melatonin is absolutely not a sedative. It doesn't just force your brain to shut down. It is what's known as a chronobiotic. It's a hormone naturally secreted by your pineal gland in response to darkness. Its whole job is to bind to your brain's MT1 and MT2 receptors to simply signal that it's time to transition. Think of it as the starter pistol for sleep, not the race itself. To put that into perspective, think about traditional prescription sleep meds, like benzodiazepines or Z-drugs. They act by aggressively depressing your central nervous system. They literally force sedation. But human evolution designed a much more elegant system. Melatonin simply synchronizes your internal biological rhythms with the external light-dark cycles of the planet. But what happens when we completely break that synchronization?
Well, this is the modern environmental conflict we're all facing. We are actively fighting our own biology every night. Late-night blue light from our screens literally tricks the pineal gland into thinking the sun is still up, which completely suppresses natural melatonin production. Then you've got caffeine sitting on adenosine receptors blocking your natural sleep pressure. Evening alcohol steps in and fragments your sleep architecture. And on top of all that, our natural melatonin production just naturally declines as we age anyway. But here's the real paradox, the thing that catches everyone out. You can fix the timing signal perfectly, but it won't matter at all if your nervous system is just too wired to listen. Which leads us straight into Section 2, the nervous system switch, balancing stress versus relaxation. Because if melatonin sets the clock, we still need a physiological mechanism to actually quiet the central nervous system down. We have to flip that biological switch from a state of daytime survival and chronic stress into a state of deep, restorative recovery.
Enter GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. This right here is your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. If cortisol and glutamate are the biological gas pedals keeping you alert, anxious, and moving, GABA is the brake pedal. It reduces neuronal excitability. Without sufficient GABA activity, your brain literally cannot transition into the relaxed state required for sleep. You'll just lie there in bed physically exhausted, but with your mind racing a million miles an hour. So true sleep optimization isn't about taking one random supplement and hoping for the best. It's about utilizing a synergistic stack to carefully orchestrate this biological switch. Let's break it down. Ashwagandha works way upstream to lower evening serum cortisol, that pesky stress hormone that ruins sleep architecture. Then, magnesium acts as this amazing physiological relaxant. It's an NMDA receptor antagonist, which is just a fancy way of saying it actively blocks excitatory pathways. And then we have L-theanine, which perfectly bridges the gap between lowering your stress and elevating relaxation.
Let's zoom in on L-theanine for a second, because this is fascinating. It's an amino acid naturally derived from green tea leaves, and when it enters your brain, it actually structurally mimics glutamate, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter. So it binds to those receptors but doesn't activate them. It acts like a biological shield, literally blocking stress signals. And at the exact same time, it amplifies alpha brainwaves operating at around 8 to 12 hertz. This induces this wonderful Zen-like meditative state of calm without artificially forcing you to feel drowsy. It basically prepares the soil for sleep to naturally take root.
All right, moving into Section 3, rewiring cognition and brain health. Why does all this actually matter beyond just feeling a bit more rested tomorrow? We need to raise the stakes here. What exactly happens when we consistently optimize this neurochemistry over years or even decades? We transition from simply talking about a good night's rest to actually unlocking long-term cognitive longevity.
Because the long-term consequences of ignoring this biological operating system are profound. Research clearly shows that age-related declines in serotonin levels are directly linked with reduced prefrontal cortex activity. Let that sink in. When you chronically fail to achieve deep, chemically balanced sleep, you aren't just enduring daytime fatigue. You are fundamentally altering the physical architecture of your aging brain, forcing it into these desperate compensatory shifts just to function day to day.
And this is exactly where the biological cascade can step in to protect us. Take 5-HTP, for example. It is a highly efficient precursor to serotonin. It completely bypasses the body's rate-limiting hydroxylation step, which means it easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. Once it's inside, it synthesizes directly into serotonin. And remember, this isn't just about your mood. Serotonin is a master regulator of neuroplasticity, memory formation, and high-level executive function. It beautifully bridges the gap between gut-level amino acid nutrition and elite brain health. And we aren't just theorizing about this either. Check out this fascinating 12-week clinical trial out of Singapore. They tracked older adults with an average age of 66. By administering just 100 milligrams of 5-HTP daily, the researchers witnessed totally measurable structural improvements. MoCA cognitive scores significantly increased. Geriatric depression scores were nearly cut in half, and their serum serotonin levels saw a massive quantifiable jump. Just by providing the brain with the precise biological building block it was desperately asking for, they enhanced serotoninergic signaling and practically reversed cognitive decline.
This leads us perfectly into Section 4, the unified architecture of health. So far, we've explored hormonal clocks, nervous system switches, and neurotransmitter pathways. But none of these things exist in a vacuum. It's time to bring all these layers together. The human body is one deeply interconnected system where your daily behaviors, your environment, and your neurochemistry are all in constant dynamic conversation with each other.
Let's look at glycine, another inhibitory amino acid. When you consume about 3 grams of glycine right before bed, it acts on NMDA receptors in your brain, which then literally sends a signal to dilate the peripheral blood vessels in your skin. This effectively dumps heat right out of your body, significantly lowering your core temperature. And a drop in core body temperature is a totally non-negotiable, hardwired physiological requirement for your brain to enter restorative, deep, slow-wave sleep. No temperature drop, no deep sleep. It's that simple.
But, and this is crucial, you absolutely cannot out-supplement a lifestyle that constantly fights your biology. Enter the 10-3-2-1-0 rule. It is a highly practical behavioral protocol, and notice, these aren't just arbitrary little self-help tips. 10 hours for caffeine, because that aligns perfectly with its metabolic half-life to clear those adenosine receptors we talked about. 3 hours for food and alcohol, to prevent core temperature spikes and metabolic interference. 2 hours for stress, just to let that cortisol drop. 1 hour without blue light, to allow your natural melatonin to rise. And 0 hits on the snooze button to firmly anchor your circadian rhythm. It's a behavioral protocol perfectly mapped to your internal biological clock.
Now, for those moments when life is just chaotic, we have actionable tools like the CIA military sleep trick.
This was literally designed for soldiers deployed in high-stress combat zones. By deliberately relaxing one body part at a time, paired with rhythmic, steady breathing, you're manually overriding your sympathetic nervous system's fight-or-flight response. You're forcing the GABAergic system to activate, proving that, with the exact right technique, your behavior can immediately dictate your biology.
So we return to our core thesis, and hopefully it carries so much more weight for you now. Fixing your sleep, protecting your brain, and extending your cognitive longevity, it's just not about popping a single magical pill. It's about actively choreographing your light exposure, your temperature, your amino acids, and your minerals. It is about deeply understanding that your daily behaviors act as the very code that programs your hidden biological operating system.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question. The science is clear. The mechanisms are known. You can now see this interconnected web of hormones, neurotransmitters, and cellular clocks that dictate your overall health. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, are you going to be the victim of these invisible biological forces? Or will you step up and become the architect of your own cognitive longevity? The choice is entirely yours.